On Monday, acting Los Angeles City Council President Mitch O'Farrell announced that he's removing Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon from committee chairmanships and committee assignments. This move comes after De Leon and Cedillo were caught in a covert recording having a racist conversation with former City Council President Nury Martinez. The recording has rocked the city of Los Angeles and led to a week of protests. O'Farrell made clear that he wants De Leon and Cedillo to resign their seats, though they have thus far refused. The scandal has caused shockwaves in California Democratic circles, with even the White House weighing in and calling for all involved in the recording to step down.
Yes. Mi nombre es Mitch O'Farrell y soy el presidente interino de la ciudad de Los Ángeles. Ahora anuncio que voy a quitar a los concejales Gil Cedillo y Kevin De Leon del cargo como presidentes de sus comités. Good morning. I'm Mitch O'Farrell, acting president of the Los Angeles City Council. Today I'm announcing that I will be removing council members Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon from their committee chairmanships as well as from committee assignments. In the interest of transparency, I can share one logistical detail on these committee assignments. As it stands now, per council rules, a council member must remain on one committee. My office is ironing out these details and will provide full communication to my colleagues later today. There is no new news regarding any resignations. Meanwhile, 6 days ago, I appointed 5 members to the Ad Hoc Censure Committee, chaired by Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson of the 8th District, and I look forward to Mr. Harris-Dawson convening that committee soon. My mission and my duty is to help this city heal and to keep it moving forward so that we can all move on from this terrible time. At tomorrow's meeting, I look forward to discussing a number of important items on the agenda, including the election of a new City Council president, charter reform, and increasing representation on the LA City Council, redistricting reform, and the formation of an independent redistricting commission. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Councilmember,
Yeah.
Question, you were talking about trying to get the city back into healing again. I mean, frankly, the city's still healing from past indiscretions from other council members. At what point do you tell the residents, enough's enough, and do you really think that the residents of LA County trust anybody in this building anymore?
That is a very understandable lament, for starters. What I have to do is make sure that this council is not held hostage because 2 additional members refused to resign. I spent Friday, Saturday, Sunday out in my district and heard from constituents by the many dozens. And the upset that you just described is pretty universal in the city. But people also expect that we move our business forward. And we must do that, which is why we're meeting tomorrow and Wednesday, and we will meet Friday as well.
Have you personally asked members De Leon and Cedillo to step down?
Yes.
And have they given you a reason why they won't?
When I spoke with Mr. Cedillo last week, I felt that he was reconciling his feelings about this transgression and understood the gravity of the moment. I have not spoken with him since, but I do have confirmation he will not be at council. And I urged Mr. De Leon to resign this morning. I have not heard a response back from Mr. De Leon since last week, since we spoke on Tuesday. And I made it really clear that he absolutely should not attend any future council meetings.
So Mitch, you have Nury who stepped down, you've got Cedillo and De Leon that haven't yet. So you've got potentially 3 different districts that are without representation. We use the word paralyzed. What's really happening to the constituents of these districts who are missing out?
Here's what we know so far. When Ms. Martinez resigned, I assigned a caretaker so that the constituents of the 6th District would have their calls answered. They would get the services like all other council districts. The one thing lacking is a vote now. So at the earliest possible convenience, we need to have a special election for the 6th council district. What's holding us up, particularly in the 14th council district, is we do not have a resignation, because we're going to need to have a special election in the 14th district as well. As far as the 1st council district, there's already an incoming new council member duly voted into office from the June primary. So that's another obstacle that we now face, and one that we must not allow us to just bring this city to a halt.
But right now, there's nobody voting in Cedillo's district and nobody voting in De Leon's district, and you guys have matters to take care of tomorrow. So what happens to those people who need to be represented?
Well, right now, their elected officials have completely failed them, and that has to be dealt with in those respective council districts. It has to be dealt with as best as we can as the existing city council, and the only recourse is resignation or recall, because I do not see the remaining 2 members who haven't resigned coming back to council with any level of credibility whatsoever, much less with the city of Los Angeles, notwithstanding their colleagues.
Have you been able to talk to Mr. De Leon since last?
I have not, and I have, despite my best efforts.
Okay.
Yeah.
What important business was missed last week because of the canceled meeting? Why have you told them not to show up? Because that way their districts are being denied a vote. And are you planning to go back in person since it's such an important meeting and clearly you're not worried about the COVID scare of having this in person?
Well, I am concerned about the COVID scare because there is at least one additional exposure of someone in that chamber last Tuesday, and that's a real concern. It would be irresponsible for me to just open the chambers wide up again tomorrow, understanding that. I had a negative test this morning myself, but I will be testing daily until the full 10 days passes. And then as far as representation and no vote, the problem with that is that these members have lost all credibility, have lost all standing, and that's a real dilemma, and I will not deny that that is a real dilemma. But I stand with the people of Los Angeles. I stand with the people in those council districts, and Angelinos everywhere in every council district want resolution to this.
En español, si puede, ¿qué le diría a la comunidad latina sobre, uno, la negativa de sus concejales a renunciar y sobre las acciones que usted está representando? Y si puede mirar, revisar las miradas verdes.
So the question is about Latino representation. And now that we only have my friend and colleague, Monica Rodriguez, as the last one standing, in good standing, representing the entire Latino community on the city of Los Angeles. That is so deeply unfair to Ms. Rodriguez. And we've discussed, I've had some good conversations with Ms. Rodriguez, and I stand with her. I stand with the Latino community. And the more quickly we can get resolution with these resignations, the more quickly we can have these special elections so that we'll have representation again. And just remember also that I am proposing charter reform to add additional council seats to grow the number of council districts so that there is greater representation. That's just one element of addressing this incredible transgression that was brought to light a week ago yesterday, and is one element of helping to decentralize power to just 3 folks who decided to violate everything all of us stand for and have an off-site meeting for the purpose of consolidating their power at the expense of the African American community. That's how it all started. So there is a lot of work for us to do.
Have you, council member, have you had any kind of a sobering conversation with, as you, the word you use, the phrase, those left standing. As we see now historically, council members seem to be dropping like flies. Are you afraid something else could hit this council? Are you afraid anybody else could have a skeleton in the closet that comes falling out? Are you going to have that sobering conversation with the remaining people like, okay, has anyone else got anything we need to worry about here?
We cannot live in fear of what might be exposed in those recordings today, next week, in the coming weeks and months. We cannot govern in fear. I will not govern that way. I don't live my life that way. We cannot govern with the notion that things that were said beyond our control by whomever will somehow harm our ability to serve the public. That could happen. That's something I don't know anything, I don't have any further information about, but we have to move forward, and we cannot govern in fear, and we must not.
Understandable, and I'm not talking about just that recording. I mean, because you've got other issues, fraud, corruption, things of that nature have nothing to do with that recording. I'm wondering if you, as an individual and not acting president, are you worried another shoe could drop?
Listen, with these revelations, it's like ripping open a wound, and the wound is deepening the longer that we don't have the resignations. But we absolutely have to stop the bleeding, because we have a responsibility to move this city forward. And that starts with the selection of a new city council president tomorrow, when that vote will be taken. We cannot control, and nor do we know what else might come out. Who among us is perfect? Who among us has, never made a mistake or said something they regret? But I will say this. I do not think that conversation could have happened in this building, because it would have not been tolerated in this building. That is my belief. My colleagues, I think we stand in unanimity in the violations that were captured in that recording. Another question here, and then I'll take some over here. Yes.
How much is this costing the city? How much will two special elections cost? And have there been costs incurred since the agents came out? And will you yourself be running for council president?
I will not be running for council president. Absolutely not. That is not something I'm interested in doing for the good of the city. The costs, we don't know of what costs at this time a special election will incur to us. And what was the other question?
How much has it costed the city so far?
Oh, so far. It's the costs to the city so far cannot yet be measured in dollars. The costs to the city are measured in our psychological and spiritual well-being. And those costs are so deep, I can't even put a price on them. I don't think anyone can.
So you said there's a presidency vote tomorrow. Who are you going to vote for?
There are discussions happening completely away from me that I'm not engaged in at all. I've been a little busy with this. And I'm hopeful to find out something later today or by tomorrow morning, because it is unclear to me which direction that vote will go. But I hope to have more clarity by tomorrow morning, certainly.
What happens if it turns out that neither of the guys who said that they actually want to be president, that neither of them have the votes, because now you're down to 12 people, and you need 8 to become president? What are you going to do if neither of them has enough votes?
I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing so that we nominate a city council president to fill the seat permanently. And that will not be me.
Sir, another question. Can you walk us through the mechanics of this again? You said in the beginning that you removed these members from committees, but they have to be in a committee to be a member. So can you walk us through the mechanics of that, and how does that work, and what happens if they don't resign?
Here's the mechanics I understand at this moment. That is a council rule. It's not a charter rule, it is a council rule. So we are looking right now as we speak into our ability and our authorization to change that council rule. I don't have an answer for you right now, but that is something that we will have an answer to, I think, pretty shortly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I'll take one last question from Mr. Zonheiser.
I have two. One is, so I was just told that Councilman Paul Excoriates has tested positive for COVID. And I'm wondering how worried you are that you're even going to be able to have a forum tomorrow if, Mike Bonin was tested positive last week. There were 1 million people in the room shouting and screaming. How likely is that scenario going to keep the city from having a meeting?
That's a great question, which is exactly why I directed the city, so that we could have our city council meeting by Zoom tomorrow and Wednesday, out of an abundance of caution, because I felt, knowing, we've been familiar with COVID now for almost 3 years, the way this virus works, it's cunning, and the council chambers was crowded on Tuesday. Mr. Bonin was being consoled by so many people. I felt it was fairly likely that there would be more infections. And so, at least for the next 2 meetings, they'll be on Zoom. And if my colleagues are well enough to log on, and I'm hopeful that they will be, we can carry on via Zoom tomorrow and Wednesday.
The other question was, you are also running for re-election right now. You're up for a third term potentially on November 8th. At the same time, you are Nuri Martinez's number 2. You're part of Nuri's leadership. Do you feel like that reflects negatively on you and is a reason why voters should not vote for you?
I am not a chess piece on a chessboard. I'm nobody's boy. I've never thought of myself as a diva. And I know that was used. And all of us are our own person. The fallout from this is vast, but I will not be beholden to some sort of claim from anyone that I had nothing to do with. Thank you so much.
Thank you.